Hey everyone, welcome to 4.6, question 21. Looks like Mr. Ponzi has gotten himself a loan for $10,000, and the agreement is that he'll pay it off in 5 years at 12% interest rate. Now he may choose to pay the loan off early, so we need to determine the ending balance of the loan under each year under the 3 different payment plans. So if you recall from the types of loans, there's 3 different types of loans. We have discount, interest only, and fully amortized. I've set up a little bit of a balance sheet already, okay? And we'll talk about it as we go through. So what did we borrow? We'll start with our discount loan, okay? And we'll recall some theory about discount loans in just one moment. So in this case, we're borrowing $10,000. It's over a 5-year period, and we have a rate of 12%. Now I've added these payment columns just to discuss a little bit. Not necessarily important for calculations, but so remember, when we're dealing with a discount loan, we don't actually have to pay anything until the loan matures or the end of the loan. So in this case, our payment for the first 4 years is actually $0. Okay. Now how do we determine our ending balance? Well, the ending balance is going to be the future value of the borrowed amount. So basically for year 1, it's going to be the $10,000 plus the 12% interest. And that should give us our future value. So, but we'll use our function, and that will just help us move things along. Okay, so if we use our future value function, we have a rate, and let's make sure that we lock in our constants. The number of years will change, but for the first year, it's just going to be 1 year. There's no payments actually going to be made. Our present value, again, is that borrowed principal, okay, and that's going to stay the same. And finally, because it's an ending balance, we're going to use our type 0. Okay, wonderful. So, again, remember this value comes from the $10,000 plus the 12% of $10,000, which is $1,100 and $200, which is $1,200. Okay, so the $1,200 plus the $10,000 gives us $11,200. Now we can go ahead and drag that down, okay? And we'll see that this is simply the interest rate after 2 years and so forth. Now the reason I stop here, and even though I can use this, I'll bring it down. I want to make it very clear that this is not our ending balance. This is our final payment, which is the $17,000. Because at the end of year 5, we have to make our final payment, which includes paying off the borrowed funds, plus the interest that's been owed over the 5 years, which is this value here, okay? So our ending balance is actually going to be $0, okay? So let's go ahead and punch that in. Okay, so we've gone ahead and punched that all in. Wonderful. So remember, ending balance is 0. Now let's move on to our interest-only loan. So when we're dealing with an interest-only loan, we are making annual payments, but as the name suggests, we're only paying the interest on that. So the principal we have to end up paying at the end of when the loan matures, plus any remaining interest, which will be the interest on year 5. But in terms of our values here, they won't change. So we can go ahead and bring those down. So how do we determine the payment? Well, remember, we're only paying the interest. So that's going to be, in this case, I'm just going to make it a positive number. Okay, so it's going to be the $10,000. We're paying the interest on the $10,000, which is $10,000 times the rate. And I'm going to lock both of these in because it will be the same payment Okay, and again, this is not vital, but it's just important to see that. Okay, so we're making equal payments of that interest of that $10,000 all the way to year 4. Okay, now what does that mean for our ending balance? Well, it means that we still owe the principal, which is the $10,000. So we'll keep that $10,000. Again, we'll make sure it doesn't change, just making it positive, okay? And that $10,000 is going to come to the final year. Now, what will happen on the final year? Well, remember, we have to pay off the ending balance, okay? So in this case, it's the $10,000 or the principal. And we still have that payment of the interest. So again, we can do the math. It's 10,000 times 12%, but ultimately it's going to be another $1,200 that we have to pay in interest. Okay, and finally, again, just like similar in A, if the loan is finished, our ending balance should be $0. So we just finish up punching these in. Again, remember our interest at year 5 is 0. Now we can move on to the amortization schedule, okay, or the amortized loan. So in this case, again, we're still going to be borrowing the same amount of money, same period, and the same rate. But in this case, it's a little more complicated in the sense that every year we're also paying off a bit of our principal. That's something we haven't really done yet. So let's take a look at what we need to figure out is our beginning balance, our payment, our interest, okay? We also want to know the principal reduction. So how much are we paying off each year in terms of our principal, and that will help us get our ending balance. Okay. So first thing we can figure out is our payment. Of course, we could fill in our years, that would help. But in terms of our payment, we can use our function. So we're going to be basically trying to figure out our constant or equal payments. Okay, so they will be equal throughout the 5 years. And really the question is just how much of that payment is interest versus principal. But we'll take a look at that in just a moment. So our rate is 12%. Our number of periods is 5 years. Okay, and none of this is actually going to change, so we can keep all this consistent. Our present value is the $10,000. Future value is 0. Let's make sure that that's also an absolute value. And finally, again, it's an ending payment type, so we can go ahead and do that. Okay, so again, we want to have equal payments in our schedule, and we just need to figure out how much of that is interest versus principal. So the beginning balance for year 1, well, it's just going to be our outstanding balance. So the beginning, we owe the $10,000. And how do we determine our interest? Well, it's going to be the $10,000 multiplied by the rate of interest. So in this case, again, it's the consistent 12%. and figuring out our principal reduction. Payment minus interest, okay? So again, we want to sort of separate the interest and the principal so we know how much each is being paid off. And for our ending balance, that's going to be how much of that principal is being paid off. So it's going to be our beginning balance minus our principal reduction. Okay, wonderful. So we've completed year 1. And now in terms of our beginning balance for year 2, it's going to be equal to the ending balance of year 1. So we can go ahead and bring that over here. And in a way, we're sort of repeating our steps. So our interest is going to be the beginning balance multiplied by the rate. And as you can see, I'm making these absolute values, and you can see why in a moment. But I just want to take our time and look at some examples. Okay, so principal reduction is going to be the payment minus the interest. And finally, we can know our beginning balance subtracted our principal reduction is what is left. Okay, so we've done 2 years, and since we are using Excel, we can go ahead and drag things down. So remember, our ending balance, let's see what happens if we drag this down, but hopefully it should be the same. Our beginning balance, should be the same as our ending balance. That looks good. Okay, the interest should be 12% of this value here. Okay, it looks about right. Our principal reduction should be the difference between the payment and the interest. Okay, looks good. And finally, our ending balance should be the beginning balance minus the principal reduction. Okay, sounds about right. Now, the reason why it looks like we're on a good track is that you can see that our interest rates, or the amount of interest we're paying, is going down, while the amount of principal we're paying is going up. So that's a good sign. So again, let's continue. Okay. And finally, the main key in year 5 is, so again, our interest is going down, which is good. Reduction is also going down. Hopefully, this should equal 0. It looks like it does. That's a good sign. Let's punch in our numbers to confirm. The final question, of course, is the ending balance of the amortized loan in year 5, and ideally it should be 0. Wonderful. It is. So remember, take a look at the theory in the reading for more information about these types of loans. Thanks for watching, and happy financing.